I'm Claudine Wong, joining you from the San Francisco Bay Area. I have a great panel with me today. We've got Casey Neer, who is the Chief Academic Officer at CollegeWise, based in Irvine, California. Very, very busy these days, trying to get kids where they want to go to school. I've also got Jennifer Lasan, who is a parent of two actual college-age students and two other students, a family of four. And then I've got three students with us. We let you guys introduce yourself. Alicia, why don't you start?
Hi, I'm Alicia. I'm from Irvine, California, and I'm currently a senior in high school.
And Owen?
I'm Owen Lasan. I'm from Ardmore, Oklahoma, and I'm planning to go to Oklahoma State University.
And Chris?
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm a senior at De La Salle High School and in Walnut Creek, California.
Okay, so much to talk about. Casey, in terms of where people are with how stressed they are in this college coronavirus crisis, what are you hearing from your families that you're working with?
I think the first part, which I think our three seniors can attest to, is just the emotional tumult of all the things that they had planned for and hoped for and expected for the last 3 years are in flux. You know, prom, graduation, leaving for college, these kind of American institutions are going to look different or not exist. And I think that is hard to grapple with. And I think the more immediate question is May 1st is the traditional deposit deadline. And we're asking students and families to make a pretty large financial commitment with not a lot of information at their disposal about what that's going to look like.
This is crazy. I mean, how many of you guys plan to spend your spring break going to the college that you were getting into or you were committed to, or the ones that you're trying to figure out? Did you guys have plans to go check out those campuses?
Yeah.
You know, and how were you guys, how sure were you guys when you went into this process? I mean, you have the dream schools, the target schools, the I'm not sure schools, the my mom made me apply schools. How difficult were your decisions?
I mean, I think it definitely became more difficult with without access to tours and just being able to visit the campus, because a lot of times we would rely on the fact that after we were admitted, if we were admitted, we'd be able to go and visit. So with that option gone, that definitely makes the decision process a lot harder.
Oh, and what about you? I mean, how much visiting did you do beforehand? How much decision making did you have to do afterwards?
I did a majority of my decision making before this all started. So I went to a lot of my out-of-state schools that I had been accepted to before this happened. So I was lucky enough to pretty much almost have my decision made before this all happened.
Yeah, that is lucky. Chris, you're in a different position. You are still trying to figure it out?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out. I did visit many of my schools beforehand, and I think visiting was really important for me. That's how I kind of put together my list based on, what places I liked. But I am still trying to figure it out, and it's been difficult. It's definitely more difficult because I feel like going there, really being able to see exactly where you're going to be, what you're going to do, especially because I feel like the admitted student tours, they give a little bit more information. They kind of go more in depth on housing situations and kind of those key details. And I feel like it's a little bit more difficult to grasp those things online. I think it's been tough.
I think it's different when you visit a school and you can go versus a school where you think you might go. Casey, I wonder how many people change their minds when they get into this. I actually know some families who didn't want to visit a school because it was a dream school, so they didn't want to get their hopes up. And so now they're like, okay, I'm in. Do you see a lot of people changing their minds when they get to go? I mean, how much are these kids missing out on?
Yeah, I think part of it has to do with it's the power dynamic, a little bit of what Chris alluded to. Once you're into a school, now it's their turn to woo you. You're not trying to convince them. And so they throw out all the stops, right? I always laugh about the amount of desserts that are available at admitted student days and just all of the fancy things that they're doing to try and entice you. But to be honest, they're also trying to be more realistic of here's what that door might look like. Here's what your, fellow roommates might look like. Here's what your major might look like. But from a college standpoint right now, they are also struggling to try and meet their enrollment goals, and they're pulling out all the stops creatively to try and shift that all online. So that power dynamic is still at play for students who are trying to make decisions. You can ask those questions on Instagram Lives and on Snapchat and on Facebook right now. Those colleges are there. I don't know if any of you guys have tried to engage with places on social media, but they're really trying to get creative access to students right now.
Are you guys on those social media platforms for, the UC Davis incoming freshman class or the Oklahoma State freshman class on on Instagram?
Yeah, the socials definitely help. It like really helps like connect you with people, as well as like the officers that are at the college that are like providing virtual tours. That, yeah, the social media aspect definitely is one of the best parts of it.
Yeah. Jen, for you, in terms of as a parent, this is not the way it was supposed to go down. You have done this prior with your oldest. In terms of how different this experience has been, and your comfort level in terms of, I hear more, I don't know if it's hard. It's hard for the kids, hardest for the kids because it's their life, but hard for parents to not be able to kind of plan those trips and to walk through campus and to learn about housing on their own and to do that.
Sure. I feel bad for Owen, definitely. And as a parent, you feel tenfold what you think your kid feels. So that's been difficult, but I feel we're fortunate because he has made his decision. But we're starting to see things like orientation, 2-day orientation over the summer. They're going to do virtual, and they've already, let us know that they're going to do that. And then any kind of camps they would have had where students would be able to come and participate and have more access to what's available to them when they finally attend in the fall are also going to be virtual. So it's interesting to think about what those are going to look like. And I'm sure they're still in the process of trying to figure that out as well.
Do you feel like it's been done well? It's hard to be critical in these times because it's difficult, but I know when it comes to graduation ceremonies in high school, there's a lot of people who are unhappy about it, how it's being handled, although who knows what the right answer is.
I think the worst thing is just the unknown, because they don't know what to expect. They can't provide information for us. And so we just try and be patient and take every little bit of information that they give to us as it becomes available. And then know that that could change as well.
Yeah.
In
Casey,
a
are
matter
you
of
hearing,
a day or.
are you hearing from people who are saying, oh, well, I'm happy with the effort they're making. It's going fine. We're not worried. Or are you hearing more people who are upset?
I think a little of both. What I feel from the parents around here is, we have heard that there will be a graduation. So everyone is comfortable that something will happen to celebrate their child. And that sits well. However, I think there was a lot that happened in the beginning with the unknown. And, there were people who were not necessarily happy with how things were, how they transpired and how information was given. But the nature of that is difficult because you can only reach so many people virtually when you can't hold meetings and things like that. And you can't hold meetings through the school system either. So I know they are struggling as well as we are, seeking information.
Yeah, it's hard, I think. Casey, as a college counselor, in terms of this spring semester, does it matter? I mean,
for my high school student.
Well,
Yeah.
right, because we have Alicia and Owen and Chris who do have class. They have to go to class. We're a lot focused on graduation because we're assuming you guys are graduating. But does it matter?
The short answer is yes, but in a different way than you probably imagine it to. I think, a lot of districts, I'm from California, and a lot of the superintendents there are starting to make decisions about going pass fail or credit, no credit, or universal pass, variations on a universal theme, basically, of saying we're not going to grade you in the same way. And colleges have pretty much come out and said, from the Yales of the world to the University of California and everybody in between, we're going to accept those grades. We're going to honor those grades. And I think what's going to show is that the students who obviously, if they had any reasons for difficulty in terms of taking classes, they don't have access to internet at home, they have, somebody who's sick or ill, obviously, I would hope to believe that there are far more important things than college and your grades right now if there are severe cases happening at home. Colleges have always risen to that occasion. I look at everything from the students who were impacted by Katrina all the years ago to students who were impacted by wildfires in California, and colleges have always adjusted their expectations if you've had a local emergency, and this is a global emergency. So colleges will always rise to that occasion.
And it may be more confusing. You guys may be lucky being seniors. You have one semester, spring quarter. No one, they're like, we're not lucky. What are you talking about? But the juniors probably they'll have a different college application process next year for sure. So I want to ask you guys, the students, about this distance learning. So there's a lot of surveys going around, and one by Simpson Scarborough said 50% of students thought it was worse, 13% a lot worse in terms of comparing to being in class. 5% said it's better. Where do you guys land on that scale of how much you like this online learning?
Uh, pers- Personally, I would rather be in class and have that interaction. And I think it's a lot more beneficial just to be, with other people and with your teacher. And the interaction's a lot easier. And I think online there's sort of a barrier that you just can't get as much done, and it's a little bit harder. And I just personally, I don't like it as much.
It's less fun, I think, not being with your friends too, just even if
Yeah.
it's just in passing from class to class. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, my issue I think is with the inconsistency of the online learning. Is that I feel like it kind of came on suddenly for my school. So the problem is that each teacher has like sort of their own approach to online learning, and they weren't able to really kind of get it down. And so with that, you're kind of jumping around from maybe a teacher that uses Zoom to a teacher that uses Google Meet to its teachers that does all through video chat versus no video chat. And so like there's no longer that consistent schedule that you've become so used to in high school of the day by day. And I think that really suffers when you're preparing for these sort of big tests like the AP exams. So I think it's definitely been worse. And I just think it's something that it'll take time getting used to.
What about you, Alicia? You loving it?
I mean, I do think there's definitely some benefits to it, like the fact that you can do work on your own time rather than like completely strict to a certain schedule. Yeah, but in general, I don't think it compares to in-class learning. I think, in-class learning will always probably be the best method, just because the teacher-student interaction and student-student interaction is very important.
Do you think that it also depends on how independent you guys are as students in terms of if you can handle it, because you don't have someone, I mean, if you're in class, you're in class. You're stuck there, whether or not you want to learn calculus or chemistry or whatever, you're in it.
Yeah, it's definitely like you have to have a lot of self-control and self-motivation, which I feel like is especially hard for us as seniors because we already kind of didn't have motivation in the first place. So having like the freedom to do whatever, whenever is kind of, it can get dangerous there.
Senioritis is real. Are you three, just a show of hands, are you guys taking AP tests?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone's taking AP tests. All right. So Casey, in terms of that, I mean, I know they've changed the rules. Some of the rules that they've changed around those, because you guys are still going to take them. It's just going to be a little weird.
Yeah, pretty much everything that could have changed has changed. So they're going to be 45-minute exams delivered online with some sort of sorcery anti-plagiarism measures in place that College Board is keeping under lock and key. They're mostly going to involve critical thinking because they're open note, open book, open internet, so non-Googleable answers. And frankly, I mean, some teachers say, great, this is finally back to the critical thinking origins that it always should have been. But it's obviously a disruption. From the college side, they're still saying they're going to take these credits, both from an admissions perspective, if I'm a junior or younger, or for a credit perspective, if I'm a senior who was wanting to get credits for these. So from
worth a lot of money. I mean, if we're talking about people being in economic hardship, I mean, we have to remember that test equals real credits, real college credit that plays a big role in mitigating some of the financial costs of going to college.
Yep, absolutely. And that was the biggest thing I think that College Board needed to push colleges toward, and colleges have come out to say that we're going to take these credits. Not every college has made an official press release, but there's going to be a lot of peer pressure, frankly, to do so.
I think I've heard some people say, does it matter? Should we take them? But Jen, as a parent, for you thinking about APs, how hard is that to kind of keep everyone on point? You to just make sure that these are these normal things that they normally would be doing, but in specific dates are staying on point.
As far as the kids are concerned,
or just even in your head of like, okay, this stuff matters. I got to keep this. This actually means real dollars back in your pocket if these scores go as they know they will for Owen.
Right. I think the one worry I have is will they truly be prepared even if they do well on the AP exam? And I don't necessarily worry, that Owen won't be prepared, but it's different. It looks different now. And you always have to, in the back of your mind, that critical aspect, like, well, will the test really test the knowledge that he needs? And if they allow him if they accept the AP score and he does go on to say calculus 2 instead of calculus 1, does he have the knowledge that he needs to be in that class and move forward? And I think
fair,
that's
yeah, right? Because you don't want to struggle in a class that you didn't. Did you guys all three of you guys take APs last year,
Yes.
Yeah.
junior year? How hard were they? I mean, they were legit hard, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know there's a big talk about 3, 4, 5s and making sure you get the right score. Casey, they've softened that, right? Like they're not sticking.
Well, I think the question is what colleges we're going to take as a credit. And that has always varied college to college. There's no universal standard, right? If I'm Harvard, I get to say 5s or bust, right? You don't get to go into calculus. And frankly, if I'm MIT or Caltech, you redo calculus at my campus.
Right.
I don't assume,
don't even exist.
yeah, I don't take Calc AB or BC as you've taken calculus. So I think every college is different in how they view those credits. They'll take it as a credit towards graduation, which does help in terms of dollars because that limits the amount of credits you need to accrue, but it doesn't always apply to you're then out of a requirement. That's college to college. And that's where APs are read differently and there's no universal standard.
Yeah. Alicia, are you thinking these are going to be easier or harder?
I think that the formatting might be a little bit easier just because it's not like a super long, like 3-hour test where you have to like keep your mental game up for that long. But I think in terms of studying, I think that's going to be a lot harder just because I've never really studied for tests in like a critical thinking aspect. It's always like memorization. And with that aspect being gone, because you can Google everything or have everything in your notes, I think just the unexpected of what's going to be on the test is the hardest part.
Owen, do you think easier or harder?
It's hard to tell. Like she said, there's a lot of unknown. Like just as far as studying for these exams, a lot of the teachers don't know exactly what's going to be on there and what to prepare us for. So I think it'll probably be easier. I think they want them to be easier because in this time it's a different environment, and
Yeah.
I mean I think it'll be easier though.
And yeah, and you missed a whole chunk, right? They had to stop content-wise of what you were supposed to know. What about you, Chris? Are you thinking, and have you lowered your standard of like, I now have to have a 5, and you're like, I'm just gonna make sure I I get this taken care of?
I mean, you always got to strive for 5. That's what they
Strive
say.
for
But
5.
but I think definitely, I think what I'm probably most concerned about is the technical aspects, right? I'm concerned like any sort of your internet cuts out or anything like that could result in a lot of issues like that. And so I'm a little bit, and so like they have like weird rules on submitting it and everything. So it's kind of unclear. I think it's definitely going to matter. The difficulty is going to vary from subject matter to subject matter. Like I'm especially worried about English because having something that I'm going to have to write out and then I'm assuming take individual photos of and then upload those, I think that's going to make things a lot more complicated and I'm going to be a lot more stressed for time as opposed to something like calculus, where I feel more comfortable doing online learning and those sort of things. So I think it's going to be harder for some of them, but actually easier for others.
Yeah, the fact that you just use the word comfortable in the same sentence as calculus gives you extra points right there. Anyway, Casey, do you know how long it's going to take? I imagine the grading or the scoring of it is, I mean, that's going to take a while.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how their college board is going to staff the immense amount of changes that they're trying to impose, not just with the AP, but with the SAT for the fall. They supposedly have always released them in July. I haven't yet heard. Obviously, that for seniors is more important to get by August for those credits for a freshman year at college. But so I assume consumer pressure will push towards that. And presumably with it being online, it's easier to grade. So we'll see how that goes.
So emotions wise, where are you guys right now? Chris, where are you? Are you bored, mad, frustrated?
I don't know. I feel like it's a difficult time. It's a little bit like surreal. Like I feel like I'm fine like with how things are now, but I just like there's something in the back of my mind that like I'm missing stuff, right? I'm missing stuff that I should be having. I should be seeing my friends. I'm talking with them and stuff, but I feel like right now I'm still on, oh yeah, this is nice. It's kind of like, I get time home and relax and stuff and like outside of school. But I think especially when it comes summer, I think it's going to fully hit me how much I'm missing, right? How much, from the dances and, hanging out with friends and stuff. And then that'll be pretty frustrating, because I just feel like there's so much that I mean, far beyond academically, there's so much that could be happening right now. I mean, just even saying goodbye, right? This is kind of like when you cement the bonds of friendship, like, as people go in different ways, and, maybe we won't have a chance to do that, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah, no, that it absolutely does. You guys were totally cheated out of this whole experience, and it's not fair, and I feel terrible. Alicia, what about you? Your overwhelming emotion for right now of what's been happening?
Yeah, I think definitely for like the first few weeks, it was kind of nice. It kind of felt like a break, but then now it definitely feels like we've just kind of been robbed of our senior year. I think like most people can like attest to the fact that like for 12 years, you kind of look forward to like your second semester senior year and all the activities that go into that, like especially graduation and prom. And yeah, to just not get those like monumental moments that are like so important to like your high school career is like really upsetting.
I'm actually curious, if you could get one back, would you get back prom or graduation? Because I know what
Graduation.
your parents would want, and family wants, but sometimes it's different for
Mhm.
for kids. Graduation. Now that's the one.
Graduation, yeah. I think, I mean,
Is
with
your
prom,
school
like,
doing virtual, or has your school
they've
decided?
tried to postpone it as of at the moment, but of course that could change with the times right now, yeah.
Yeah. And Owen, you've got a postponed graduation. What's your emotion right now?
Um, a little bit like they said, it's just surreal right now. But as we continue, you get reminders that of what you're missing. Like today would have been prom, or today would have been my last baseball game, and so on. So, but I mean, it's also in the context that there is a bigger picture, and there's more happening than us just missing our senior prom and our senior graduation. So.
That is true. What about you, Jen?
I think I feel the same way as Owen. I have highs and lows, and I know I've seen a lot of memes about the emotions being somewhat similar to a roller coaster. You're mad one day, you're grateful the next for all the time that I get with him before he leaves for college, or having my other, daughter home who's been away at college, and then some days it just doesn't really feel like, it's just very surreal. Like, is this really happening?
I know.
So.
Well, January, we were living in a completely different world and never really saw it coming, And Casey, do you feel like, I mean, that's the general consensus. Are you getting more and more anxious calls, but we don't really have the answers to what we have questions to? I mean, I think that's the hardest part. If we knew, then
Yeah.
that would be one thing. But I mean, how do you advise seniors right now on their best course of action when the whole world is on a pathway that we don't know know where the
Yeah.
next turn is going to take us?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hardest questions I've been getting, and the ones I think swirling for students, are deciding which unknown they feel most comfortable with, right? Is it the unknown of starting a first year, potentially online, potentially hybrid, potentially question mark, whatever the college comes up with, or saying I'm going to defer or take a gap year or delay and deal with that unknown. And I think needing to then make that decision by either May 1st or June 1st or whatever deadline the college is imposing is needing to make a final decision around a lot of unknowns. And I think that will always be hard for students right now.
So what are you telling them? I mean,
well, I think part of it is I've already seen colleges starting to get creative about things that they're going to do. I mean, we use this analogy a lot, trying to fly the plane while they're building it. And I think there's only going to be more ingenuity, frankly, because they need your tuition dollars. If they don't get in a full class for that fall class, they are going to struggle. So it is in their best interest to enroll you and get you there for the fall. I think the reality is, if there's a world where you can't be in person at your school in fall semester, the gap year options are not that much more fun. In that future parallelism, there isn't a cool travel the globe gap year option for you. So I think the reality is making sure students are aware, if it's door number 2, that might mean still living at home, probably not getting a part-time job because nobody's going to hire a 17-year-old in a recession. They're going to hire the 30-year-old out of a job and potentially not doing as many activities. So I think it's a bit doom and gloom to put it that way, but I think I put my kind of bucket, I guess, in the colleges trying to figure it out and get creative. And I would much rather a student who wasn't at least already planning on a gap year to go ahead and make that commitment if they can financially, because I think it'll feel good to be part of that camaraderie of a first year class.
Yeah, and we still are holding out hope that it'll look, your guys' freshman years will look like they're supposed to, at least at some point. All right, Casey with College Wise, Alicia and Owen and Jen and Chris, thanks so much for this talk. I appreciate it, and we'll just keep holding on and crossing our fingers.